Welcome, everybody. Wednesday, May 3rd. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, here to talk to you about the latest news from Ukraine. Today's big story, we will be talking a lot about that drone attack or whatever it was on Moscow today. As always, I'm going to get rolling on TikTok here, and then we're going to wait 2 or 3 minutes for folks to arrive because it takes that long. Once they get the notice, because I've got TikTok over here, and then I've got YouTube and Twitch and everybody else over there. So we're going to wait about 2 to 3 minutes for folks to show up. There we go. TikTok is now filtering in. But I don't know. Introduce yourselves. While we're waiting. You're on all three, Saberio? That's scary or complimentary. I don't know which. You stalking me? Anyway, folks, welcome. Ooh, Chad Rusher, our new auction winner, if you didn't see my note. Just so I'm on TikTok there. Anyway, yeah, lots of news today. Like I said, we're going to talk a lot about that drone thing. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's interesting, Joanna. Very cool. Kalimerek or Kalispera, I guess we might say at this hour. Thank you for the gift. Who was that with the gift? Who was that? K Rose, right? Anyway, as always, guys, like I said, we're going to wait about a minute or two just for folks to filter in because it takes that long for folks to get here. The notices go out to TikTok, which I've got over here, and then YouTube and Twitch and everybody else. The notices go here. So we like to wait a minute or two just for folks to arrive. So, hey, Daniel. Oh, man. Anyway, yeah, like I said, lots of news today. I mean, the big news is the drone thing. There's other news, but the big story is the drone. So we're going to talk about that. So, oh, it changed your name from Kanowski? Somebody else said it changed their name or something. That's really funny. Oh, thank you for that star, Scott. I haven't seen that. I don't think I've quite seen that star before. That was interesting. Anyway, yep, we're going to talk about what people were doing on that roof. Carlos already have a super chat. Carlitos. No lo he visto. Where is there a super chat from Carlos? Hold on, I'm still screwing up. Or no lo había visto. Carlos Bond. Oh, there you are, Carlos. Didn't even see it. All right. I got it now. All right. Yeah, we got a question from Carlos booted up. All right, let me do the introduction. Why not? So, hey, guys, welcome. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report. This is my nightly show, Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S., where we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. Just a reminder that starting this weekend, I'm also going to be doing a weekend review show that let's see how it goes, but it's going to be on Twitch because anyway, very complicated, but bottom line is it's a unique exclusive show on Twitch because it's kind of the way things work over there. Different account. My weekly show will be the Aravosis account that all you Twitchers are used to knowing. It's my last name is the account. The one we're now doing with the daily shows is Aravosis Report Daily. But come for that at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. I'll be doing my weekend review show on Twitch. Otherwise, we will do our coffee talk at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. So 2 hours before that. So show up for that. That'll be all the subscribers, the paid subscribers on TikTok and the paid subscribers on the Discord. So join us for that. Thank you, Michael Darling. Michael Darling. It sounds like I'm saying Michael, darling. Thank you for that. And thank you for the hat there on TikTok, Jennifer. And the flags. Oh, we're getting a lot of gifts coming in right now. Was that Rainbow Rain with the flags? So I'm trying to see here. Jennifer with the hat. Pauline with the little goggles. Thank you, guys. All right, well, you know what? I'll first pull up. Thank you. That was very generous of you, Michael. Thank you. Let me pull up really quick the question Carlos had because I'm sorry. Let me explain. So the way we do this is for about the first half of the show or so, I will give you guys the news that I think is important. Today, the big news is that drone attack or whatever it was on Moscow. We're going to talk get a lot of information about that. And then the second half of the show, I take your guys' questions. Although, as we're doing the drone, if I see questions pop up from you guys, certainly we'll talk about it. Thank you for the May gift there. We'll certainly talk about it. But the way you submit questions, generally to make it a little easier for me on TikTok, you guys can go to the Q&A link that is in my profile on TikTok. It's nice because that way it lines the questions up nicely that I can find them more easily. For the rest of you, obviously, you can use the comment box at the bottom of the screen. I'm also a big fan, as you know, of the Super Chat and the Super Stickers. Super Chat questions, I will always promise to get to those as the next question I get to. And if I forget, Roshin is there to make sure I don't forget. And then on gifts on TikTok, same thing. I love you guys' gifts. Thank you for the gift there, Martin. I will always do a shout out when I see the gift pop up on the screen. Occasionally I don't see it because I'm in the middle of reading or talking to the guys over here on YouTube and Twitch. So excuse me if that happens. Final point is, the reason we talk about gifts and stuff is because I do this full time. This is my job. I decided when the war broke out that I was going to use my background in internet politics, journalism, law, foreign policy, you name it. Thank you, Kathleen, for the confetti. Put it all together to see if I could help Ukraine by doing news shows that sort of explain the news to people. But also, look, I'm on Ukraine's side. I admit it up front. I think most of us here are, other than the trolls that the mods are dealing with on TikTok right now. But anyway, I'm doing it full time, need to pay the bills, and that's where your guys' gifts come in. So thank you for that. So let's start with Carlos's question. After the war, actually, let me start with the way I usually start the show. This is day 433 of Vladimir Putin's 10-day special military operation in Ukraine. Carlos had a super chat question, and I always promise to get to those right away. After the war, assuming Ukraine wins in some fashion, I think NATO slow walks their inclusion, but doesn't refuse outright. What's your opinion? That's exactly what I think is going to happen. Keep in mind, they've been slow walking Ukraine kind of since 2008. Turkey, well, not Turkey, but that's the EU with them, although they have a reason with Turkey. I think you're going to see Hungary is going to do Putin's bidding, which they always do. No, there is zero reason. Thank you, Kay. Oh, Canalsi, Kay for the cat there. There is zero reason that anybody should believe that the NATO is going to allow Ukraine in anytime soon, and Ukraine should not believe NATO's promises. Literally, if that were a condition for the war ending, that somehow, I've seen these things thrown out there. Thank you, Happy Beach. Somehow these ideas thrown out there that Ukraine would give up Crimea and NATO would promise they join NATO. Well, the only way that deal would go through, thank you, Bonnie, for that. And again, that's up to the Ukrainians, whether they want to give up Crimea. But the only way I would recommend the Ukrainians believe that, hey, Crutch on Twitch, is for NATO to literally approve. Every NATO country approves Ukraine's entrance right before the treaty is signed. And then the documents get filed with the State Department, which is how it works. And the State Department holds them, and Ukraine signs the peace treaty, and then the State Department files the documents. But that way, Hungary can't play games. Turkey can't play games. There is no reason that Ukraine should believe that. All right, let's get into the news here. So Zelensky was in Finland today, meeting with the Nordic leaders. They held a press conference. Obviously, it was going to be a newsworthy day for that, but obviously that ended up not being the news of the day. The news of the day ended up being this drone that flew over the Kremlin last night. The Kremlin is the seat of power of the Russian government. It is, I've been there during the Soviet Union, kind of scary, 84, actually. I was there February of 84. But the Kremlin is like in Washington, D.C., we've got the downtown area, that's sort of the federal area. And it literally is the federal area. All the federal agencies, the mall, the White House, it's this federal area that's quite large, several miles. The Kremlin's the same thing. It's the sort of federal area of Moscow, the big red walls, kind of famous, the church, whatchamacallit, right, and all that stuff. I'm forgetting the name of the famous church. You guys know what I mean. And it's the seat of power, right? It's where the president's, president has a residence there. Putin never stays there, but you get it. It's there, okay? So at 2:30, actually more like 2:36 or so a.m. last night, two drones go flying over the Kremlin. One crashes into a dome and catches on fire. The other one explodes over the dome. Now, at one point, if you zoomed in, because somebody had asked the question on I think it was YouTube, and I was going to get into this anyway. Thank you, Kay Canalsi, for the confetti there. At one point, looking at the picture, you see right before the drone explodes, two men climbing the dome. And it looks a little suspicious because a lot of us were saying, okay, what is that? Is that, how did those two men just happen to get there? Well, I just read literally before coming on with you guys tonight that it's possible those two men were climbing the dome because the second or first drone had already crashed into the dome. It didn't blow up, but once it crashed, it caught on fire. So you had a drone on fire on the dome, and that's why these men were possibly climbing up to check it out and see what the damage was, etc. So that's entirely possible. Second drone comes over and explodes over the dome. Very 9/11, actually, and not 9/11, because this was no big deal. But my point is having a double tap, having like a double attack. It certainly makes it look like the dome might have actually been a target. And again, I say target, but we don't. I'm going to step back a second here. The conclusion I am going to reach with you all is we don't know who sent these drones. It could have been the Ukrainian government. It could have been Ukrainian tricksters. We'll talk about that in a minute. It could have been Russian partisans. In other words, Russians that are helping the Ukrainians. Let's face it, we know the Russians have been doing things with train tracks. The Belarusian partisans have been helping the Ukrainians by messing with the train tracks in Belarus. It could have been Putin himself who wanted to set up a false flag operation. False flag is basically where you do it yourself and you blame it on somebody else. So Putin would himself have the drone attack the Kremlin, right? And then to use it to blame Ukraine. The question is why. We'll get to that. So those are all the possibilities. So the drones go off. This is like 2:36 in the morning, mind you, okay? Thank you, Rainbow Rain, for the kite there. Nobody talks about it until the next day at like 3:30 in the afternoon. So for 12 hours, 13 hours or so, the Russians are quiet. The Russian government's quiet about it. They don't say a word. Putin goes to some morning meeting he has with some governor of another province, right? Nobody's talking about it. Afternoon comes at 3:30. Mind you, this is 12 hours later, 13 hours later, and the Russians issue this 5-paragraph statement, livid about what happened. This was an assassination attempt. It was terrorism. I mean, losing their minds. Little weird because they waited 13 hours to even go public. It was a little weird, right? Like if this was an assassination attempt, right, and it was a terrorist attack, you'd think there would have been lots of scurrying that morning. Putin would be going to lots of meetings. He wouldn't be having some meeting with some governor. The whole thing's much of this story is very weird. Okay, so let me kind of walk you through some of this. We have the two men on the drone, on the dome. Thank you, Tom, for the hat. Two men on the dome. I think that could be explained by they were climbing up to check out the fire from the first drone. Fair enough. The cameras, boy, there's a lot of great video of this drone, of these drones actually coming. There's at least three, maybe four videos. They're beautifully shot, high resolution, so you can see the drone beautifully, but also beautiful pictures of Red Square, which is right there by the Kremlin. Red Square is the super famous square where Lenin's body is, and that famous church. But again, it's not, you know how normally in war, like in this war actually, when there's, first of all, there usually isn't video of an attack, but if there's video, it's grimy video from a storefront or something, right? Oh no, these look like they're professionally shot, beautiful videos. And like I said, they even captured Red Square with them. You're seeing the drone coming in, but you're seeing the beauty of Red Square. Looks a little fake. And by fake, I don't mean fake as in the video's fake, but I mean fake as in this was not just some amateur video that, mind you, somebody just happened to catch at 2:36 a.m. in the morning. A little bit weird. So that's one thing that makes it strange. The interesting timing of this is that next week on May 9th, today's May 3rd, so 6 days, is the anniversary that the Russians celebrate victory over the Nazis in World War II. Now, don't want to get too much into that discussion, but I think it's always important to remind you all that the Russians did not single-handedly defeat the Nazis. They'd like you to believe they did. And in fact, the U.S. gave them a ton of lend-lease, 14,000 planes, among other things, lots of tanks and lots of everything else. But also the Russians, somebody pointed this out today, and I thought it was very funny, that they said all the what do you call it? The monuments to World War II and their victory show 1941, 1945. Well, the war started like in 39 or so, or 38, right? From 39 to 41, the Russians don't put 39 on their flag. They don't put 39 on their announcement because from 39 to 41, they were allies of the Nazis. And they were busy attacking Eastern Europe and taking other countries hostage because it was a deal they had worked out with the Nazis. So I feel it's important to say this because the Russians will just never stop talking about World War II and never stop claiming credit when A, they were one of the aggressors, B, they were friends with the Nazis. And it was only when things went sour with the Nazis that they actually, turned around and attacked, and C, we helped them a lot. Now, that doesn't mean the Russians didn't do a lot. The Russians lost a lot of people. I'm not going to take that away from them, but it wasn't just the Russians. In any case, May 9th is the big day. So this attack is also interesting because clearly it's timed it seems to be timed to go along with Russia's big celebration. This is the celebration they have on Red Square when they've got all the nuclear missiles driving by, right? The big parade and all this kind of stuff. Thank you, Kathleen, for the confetti. Now, let's go through a couple different possibilities. Oh, thank you, Kathleen, for lots of confetti. Thank you for that. Let's go through more of this. I've got the Kremlin didn't acknowledge the attack. Then they called it a terrorist attack. Mind you, a terrorist attack. It's a freaking drone. It's a drone, okay? Terrorist attack and an assassination attempt. They have been talking all day about Vladimir Putin was almost killed. Vladimir Putin wasn't even there. He's never there. Putin is a paranoid. He is always, remember, I've got something to read you later about sort of how paranoid Putin is. Putin wasn't there. Look at the videos. One of them crashes into the dome, catches on fire. I mean, it doesn't destroy the dome. It just catches on fire. The other one explodes in the air over the dome. Doesn't do damage to the dome at all, it looks like. An assassination attempt? I mean, the high drama with these people is always, I've told you guys, one thing to keep in mind with the Russians and foreign policy is they lie. They lie a lot. And that's just something you've got to keep in mind. It is a sort of a weapon or a tool of foreign policy. Thank you, Kanowski, for the swing. It's a tool of foreign policy they use. And honestly, you should just always assume the Russians are lying. I mean, it's, all governments can lie, but with these guys, forget it. Any case, let's talk more. So one of the issues that came up today was this rumor going around, and I'm going to repeat it because the rumor's already been going around, and I want to sort of tell you. There are no facts to back up this rumor at all. But this rumor starts flying around and people start sharing it on Twitter and other places saying that, oh my God, the Russians are putting their nuclear forces on alert at Engels Air Base close to Ukraine, the nuclear weapons and this kind of crazy stuff, right? Like, oh my God, they're getting ready to launch nukes. It's a rumor. And it's a rumor from nobody real. It's just a rumor. Some Ukrainian and Russian sources just started saying it on either Twitter or probably Telegram, because that's what they usually are, and everyone started repeating it. So first thing first, there's zero. Thank you, Marcy, for that. There's zero of anything to back this up. So you shouldn't even care about it. I'm saying it doesn't exist. Second point, though, I will say this. Having now poo-pooed it, I wouldn't be surprised if Putin did it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I have said from the beginning, and any of you guys who watch me regularly will know, I have said from the beginning, Vladimir Putin will do everything short of nuclear war to convince you he's going to declare nuclear war. The idea here is that Putin, this war is not going well. What did I say at the beginning? We're day 433 of a 10-day war. Actually, it's supposed to be like 3-day or 10-day, depending how you count it, right? Roshin wants the map. Okay, Roshin gets the map. We have our little map here. So we'll tell you again, Russia's over here. Moscow, which isn't really burning too much, way up there, about 350 miles, or 300 miles, 450 kilometers. The nuclear stuff. Thank you, Bradley, for the confetti. If I were Putin, I would absolutely get the nukes ready. I would do everything possible to scare every single one of you out there. Thank you, Jennifer, for the gift, to scare every single one of you out there. But also, it's not just to scare you. The real goal is to scare Joe Biden, to scare President Macron of France, and to scare Chancellor Scholz of Germany. My goal as Vladimir Putin is to make sure, thank you, Bradley, thank you again, Bradley, is to make sure that you all and your leaders are so freaked out about nuclear war that every time Ukraine asks for more weapons or better weapons, you sit there and go, I don't know. I'm really worried about what this is going to do. Will the Russians finally freak out and do something stupid, right? That's Putin's goal here. So again, I don't think Putin has done anything with nukes. Thank you, Scott, for the little triangle, for the star there. I don't think Putin's done anything with nukes, but I wouldn't be surprised at some point if Putin, he'll move nuclear weapons to the border. Thank you, Nick, for the hat. He'll move nuclear weapons to the border. He'll come up with something just to freak us out. Maybe they'll even do a nuclear weapons test. Right? Something to freak us out because he wants. Well, I'm not going to go off on my Biden what's the word I'm looking for? Tirade today. But our leaders have made clear. Thanks again, Nick. Our leaders have made clear that they're very worried about angering Vladimir Putin. And I think Putin has taken it to heart and said, yay. Biden's afraid of World War III. I'm going to give him World War III. I'm not going to give him World War III, but I'm going to make him think we're barreling toward, rolling down the hill towards World War III. Because then he's going to, keep in mind, Ukraine wants F-16 fighter jets. Thank you, Nick, again for the hat. Ukraine wants ATACMS, long-range rockets, right? I mean, all that stuff they want all this stuff. And they're not going to get it. Hang on a sec. Oops. I love that I can block Facebook users from my app here. Sorry, we had a Ukraine is corrupt country. Okay, Leonard. I don't think so. Sorry, we had a thing there. Any case, okay, so the nuke thing. Drones. Sorry, I have like a sort of a jumbled bunch of different points here. Drones. I should have brought this one up when we talked about, is this terrorism? Is it assassination? Well, guess how many times over the last week Russia has sent drones at Kyiv, Ukraine's capital. Thanks again for that, Nick. Oh, got a lot of things. Steven, thank you. Russia has sent drones to Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, 3 of the 6 nights. 3 of the 6 last nights, Russia has sent drones to Kyiv. And mind you, that's just the last week, okay? Over the last year, I don't even know what the number is, but you all know, Russia has been sending these suicide drones non-freaking stop. Just this weekend, forget the drones, just this weekend, Russia sent a missile into into civilian, remember, I think it was Friday actually, when they sent it into the civilian apartment building and they killed a bunch of children and everybody else. I mean, it's just, thank you, Nick, for that. It makes me kind of crazy. I say mad, but mad meaning crazy when I hear Russia say things like, and literally you look at this video of this drone and it's a drone. It's this little drone flying across the Kremlin and then it blows up in the air and that's it. And you look at this and go, okay, is this actually worse than a missile being shot into the side of an apartment building? Thank you, Nick, for that. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm like missing people here. Oh, Nick. Okay, I'll just keep thanking Nick because Nick keeps sending stuff. Thank you, Nick. You're being really generous. I appreciate that. But we all know how bad Russia has been with all of this, right? Thank you, Mikey, as well there. So it just kind of gets on my nerves. What else here? Ukraine denies it. Zelensky has said it's not him. He says we would not attack Putin. We have no need to attack Moscow. I will say to date, the attacks that we know have been happening outside of Ukraine, the attacks that the Ukrainians have been doing have been to Russian logistics. Thank you, Bonnie, for the seal. I still don't have that seal as my option on my TikTok. I don't know why, but thank you for that. To date, the Ukrainians have only been attacking logistics inside Russia. So they've been basically going after the sources that the Russian military will use to attack Ukraine. For example, they've been blowing up fuel depots, right? Fuel for the tanks and everything else. They've been blowing up weapons depots. A lot of this happened in Belgorod at the beginning of the war. Remember, there were a lot of attacks right across the border here. Belgorod's about 20 miles across the border, maybe 30 kilometers max across the border here. Ukraine blew up a train crossing, but all of this because they were ways that the Russians were using to supply their military, okay? In the last week, thank you, Tom Katz, for the May thing. In the last week, we've had Ukraine blowing up, again, a number of trains right across the border in the north. We've had Ukraine potentially blowing up housing for troops, oil depot down in Crimea. There was another attack today. I've got it sort of in my notes further below. I don't remember if it's oil or not. Thank you, Kanausi, for the swan there, and Tomcat and Deck. I don't remember what it was exactly because it's in my notes. I'll have to tell you guys later. But hello, and thank you. Somebody did the Galaxy that I like. Who did the Galaxy? Oh, Victor. Thank you, Victor, for that. You guys are being very generous today with the gifts. I appreciate that. There was an attack right near the Kerch Bridge, which actually, let me show you too. Thank you, Dark Phoenix. All of you, the TikTokers are out of control today. Thank you, TikTokers. Who was Meteor? Oh, Wanda. Thank you, Wanda. The Kerch Bridge all the way down here is thank you for the glasses there. Kerch Bridge is crosses about a 12-mile span here between Russia over here and Crimea. Crimea, the territory that the Russians occupied in 2014. Remember, this is the bridge that got blown up in October, and we assume it was the Ukrainians, but nobody knows for sure. What I mean is we really don't know for sure, but we assume it was Ukraine, right? Thank you for the waving man there. Who did the waving man? I hate this because it goes so quickly. Tom, thank you, Tom. In any case, there was an attack right near the Kerch Bridge today as well, going after some more infrastructure. So my point in raising this, thank you for the crane and the origamis, and Scott for the confetti, and Kanowski for the bear. Oh my God. I told you, I feel like Romper Room when you guys do this sometimes, when I see so-and-so, I see so-and-so. So my point in mentioning all these attacks from Ukraine is, I would say exclusively from what we know, every time Ukraine has actually attacked either Russia itself or territory held by Russia, like Crimea, right? They've gone after, thank you, Tom, for the balloons, and whoever just did the galaxy there. Nick, thank you for that. TikTok changed the way they do this. So unfortunately, when you guys give the gifts, they go flying off the screen. And it's hard for me to see the names of the people who did it because TikTok's a little evil here. So thank you for that. So in any case, Ukraine has been going after the logistics, the war effort. They don't just usually try to blow up a dome in Red Square. That's not something Ukraine would do. I mean, it doesn't really make sense. Thank you, Flower Lady, for that. Let me go a little more here. We talked about false flag. Let's talk about false flag too, actually. Thank you, Happy Beach, for that. So false flag. The question arises, okay, could Putin have done this? Could Putin have literally, flown the drone at his own building, and for what purpose? Well, we know Putin has done this before. 1999. I will say it's not 100% agreed that he did this, but it's pretty well agreed that he did this. So there's still, a little doubt, but I have none, that Putin had several apartment buildings blown up in Moscow and other cities around Russia in 1999, blamed it on, I think it was Chechen separatists or whatever it was, Chechen terrorists. And thank you, Nick. And used this to propel himself to the presidency only a few months later. That basically he was prime minister at the time, and his response to it, because the Russians, mind you, apartment buildings blowing up all over Russia, over 300 people died. That would be pretty freaking scary. Well, he jumps in and he, saves the day, so to speak, and the Russians make him president. Well, by the way, Russians make him president. He's president now to this day still. Now, there was a little bit of switch back and forth with Medvedev, but if you look where Putin is now, Putin has been in charge of that country for over 20 years now. So if you're Putin, you sit there and go, the last time we know of that Putin did this, where he attacked his own people, got him the presidency where he is today and where he still is. So in Putin's mind, these false flags work. Thank you, SB. Sorry, we had another request for the flag for the Ukraine map. So there you go. Thank you. I appreciate the gift there, SB. So why would Putin do it? Okay, if he's going to do this, what advantage does he give? Now, some people are saying, and I don't agree with this. The New York Times said, and I think it's kind of stupid, actually, what the New York Times said. They said, this will this attack. The Kremlin will use this attack to. They didn't say justify. They used a word like justify, to justify harsher attacks against Ukraine. And I'm reading this going, what justification does Putin need? Who does Putin need to justify this to? Thank you for the aliens there. Who was the alien? It's Wanda. Thank you. And Lori with the love focus, and Cheryl as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. But right, who does Putin need to convince in order to drop more bombs on Ukraine? Nobody. Absolutely nobody. So I don't think it's a false flag simply to empower Putin to drop bigger bombs. That's BS. To empower Putin to use nukes, that's also BS, because the equation on using nukes doesn't change right now. Okay, either it makes political sense and military sense for Putin to use nukes in Ukraine or chemical and biological weapons, or it doesn't. Oh, those are very cool. Those flowers. I haven't seen those before. Thank you for those. Who was that? Kanowski. That must be a new one. Thank you for that. Either it makes sense or it doesn't. This drone thing flying over Red Square doesn't change the calculus. It doesn't change the fact that the military experts think that there's no military benefit in using nukes. Okay, in other words, it doesn't help the Russian military beat the Ukrainian army by using nukes. There's a lot of negative to it because the Russians would be using nukes in all of this territory down to Crimea that they currently occupy and that they've already made part of Russia. Now, it's not part of Russia. Legally, it's not. But the Russians claim this is all Russia now. Well, why would they want to nuke their own people in their own territory? That's a little weird, right? Partially because you've also got to live there. I mean, if you nuke it, it's then poisoned with radiation. Not really very helpful, right? So it's not helping militarily. It doesn't help you to sort of nuke your own territory. You risk NATO getting involved, right? Because supposedly, now we'll see if that would happen, but supposedly NATO would get involved in the war if Putin used nukes. That doesn't help. He doesn't want NATO to get involved. I mean, again, NATO gets involved. Either we have a nuclear war and we all die. Well, okay, we don't want that, but do you think Putin wants everyone to die, including everyone himself? No. So that doesn't help. A nuclear war doesn't advance Putin's goals. Or if we don't have a nuclear war and NATO enters the war, you know what happens? NATO wins the war because NATO is so much more powerful than the Russians if you put nukes out of the question, right? So it's not like this drone attack is an excuse for Putin to use nukes when he couldn't use them earlier. So that's my saying. I don't think it's a nuclear thing. Now, what I do think it is, this certainly would help Putin with people at home. He's worried about conscription, right? He wants to get another, remember he got 300,000 new men. Okay, first of all, they invade a year ago in February. And remember, at first the invasion went well for them, but I mean, at first meaning like 10 days. And they come in and they start occupying, sort of north of Kyiv. They start occupying areas around here. They then move in and end up grabbing, they had this already, they end up grabbing all of this. So at one point, they're occupying, I don't know if it was like 40% of Ukraine. It was a lot of Ukraine, okay? Then 1 month in, what happens? The Ukrainians start just pushing them out, and the Russians end up losing half the land that they were occupying. Well, a lot of Russian troops are getting killed. We know, did not go well for the Russians. Putin then decides to do the mobilization in September, October. He wants another 300,000 men. Remember that? And that was the time when he freaked everybody out. Thank you, Kanowski, for the drum set. That was the time that he freaked everybody out, and anywhere from like 300,000 to 500,000 to 1 million Russian men fled the country because they were so freaked out by, thank you, Terasa, for the hanging lights. They were so freaked out about the prospect of having to fight in this war. So that didn't go well for Putin, right? The fact that now we know that, well, since December, the U.S. intelligence says, since December, at least one estimate is that the Russians have lost at least 20,000 men have died, and 80,000 have been injured since December, which is a third of their fighting army, which is crazy. Since the war started, before those numbers even, since the war started, we believe that Russia has had about 220,000 injuries, and depending who you talk to, maybe 60, maybe even 80,000 deaths. So Russia has not been doing well in this war overall, okay? So I'm looking here to see the false flag, right. So Russia's not been doing well. And now Putin comes out, like Minister of Defense or whatever, maybe a month ago or so, 6 weeks ago, and says they need another 400,000 men to fight. But they don't want to have a draft because they're afraid of pissing people off. So he can't have a draft. He's trying to get contract workers where basically you volunteer to sign up, but they are forcing some people. They're going to schools and grabbing people. But they're trying to do it really quiet because they're afraid if they announce a nationwide draft, it'll freak people out like it did last fall. Well, a better way of getting people to sign up, A, and B, to stop people from getting pissed off across the board at you and you worry about the stability of your government because of having a draft is to, as Putin well knows, blow up some buildings, right? So this terrorist attack was meant to bring home to the Russian people, I think, again, if it was the Russians, I still don't know. If it was the Russians, it was meant to bring home to the Russian people, these Ukrainians, they're horrible. Look, they're attacking us in our capital. Come, young men, join the military, right? Women don't get upset at us for taking your men and basically getting them all killed in Ukraine. So there is a logical reason why you would want to, if you were Putin, create this whole situation. Now, the other reason is, as I said, to freak out Biden, to freak out the president of France and the chancellor of Germany. We know from the beginning, Biden has been reticent about giving weapons to Ukraine because he's afraid of Putin. I mean, I say afraid of Putin. I'm sorry. I think he is. Clearly, whatever word you want to use, it's because of Putin mostly that we have not given the weapons. Yeah, the Ukrainians had to prove they could use them. Yeah, we had to train the Ukrainians. But We didn't wait until January of this year to even approve tanks because training. We didn't even start the training until we approved the tanks. I mean, it's because we were afraid of Putin and we were afraid of angering Putin. So if you're Putin, you go, you know what? Let's just mix things up a little bit more. Let's make Biden wonder if Zelensky did this, if Zelensky did such a risky thing of attacking the Kremlin, because maybe it'll make Biden more afraid of giving Zelensky missiles that can go farther, and maybe he'd use them to attack another Russian city, right? So you're trying to sow this doubt about from Biden, excuse me. Thank you, Dora. This doubt from Biden, but also the doubt in the other NATO leaders of, can we really trust Zelensky? Maybe he would push things too far. Maybe he would push Putin to use nukes, right? So that to me is, again, I don't know if this is a Russian false flag. I will say absolutely it is plausible that that would be a reason for Putin to do the false flag, to basically sow all of this dissension among NATO and to freak Biden out a little bit more so he doesn't, mind you, what else was happening in the last week? We heard in the last week that the Brits were considering giving longer range missiles to the Ukrainians. The longer range missiles are in fact the very issue that the Ukrainians say they need, that frankly all the experts say the Ukrainian need, and that America has been really, Biden's been really not happy about giving Ukraine longer range missiles. Right after the Brits, I think it's been 3 or 4 days, 4 days, 5 days after the Brits say they're considering it, this happens. So false flag, totally possible. Now, Russian partisans, as I said, could be Russian partisans, could be simply Russians that are trying to help out. Because we know they've done things in other parts of Russia. We know in Belarus, some of the Belarusians blew up train tracks, or I should say, somehow mangled train tracks to try to hurt the Russian troops from getting supplies. So it could be them. It could be the Ukrainians. Thank you, Kanowski, for that. It could be the Ukrainians. Now, why would the Ukrainians do it? Well, I've seen some people say if the Ukrainians would do it, they would do a much bigger bomb. Not necessarily. What if your goal here wasn't to blow up Moscow? What if your goal was to freak the crap out of the Russians, to freak Putin out, to freak out the military, to freak out the senior leaders, and frankly, to freak out the Russian people, to bring the war home to them so that they don't sit there and think, well, that war is 350 miles away, right? Or 400 kilometers away, 450. I don't care. You've now shown the Russian people that the war can come to them. If this was Ukraine, there is definite psychological advantage to doing that and to take it to Putin. We know Putin's a little bit paranoid. Now, listen to this. This was on Sky News, and I had to read this to you guys because I'd heard it before, but the way they explained it, just to show you Putin's paranoia. Mind you, remember the long 40-foot long, what is it? 40 feet is 20 meters. 15 meters or so, 13 meters table he sits at when he meets the foreign leaders. Thank you, Kanowski. Listen to this from Sky News. Putin has established identical offices in multiple locations. So he's got offices all over Russia, okay? But they're identical. They're all furnished and decorated the same in every detail with matching desks and matching wall hangings, according to Gleb Karakulov, a captain in the Federal Protection Service responsible for guarding the president who defected and recently gave interviews about his experiences. In live broadcasts, it would be impossible to discern where Putin was because every single office looks the same. That is a paranoid man. That is the kind of man where if you want to get under his skin, you send a couple drones over Red Square and blow them up. So I think there is a plausible reason why Ukraine might do this to freak the Russians out. Possible. It also could be Ukrainian partisans, right? It could just be, let's face it, anybody with a drone, you have to get a drone that can go far enough. You have to control it. I mean, it's not just a drone, but in principle, it could be somebody who just wanted to go after Moscow. Now, with that in mind, I mentioned this story to you guys the other day. A month ago, a Ukrainian industrialist, a financial technology guy, put forth a prize offering of $500,000 US, around $500,000 US, for anyone who was able to land a drone in Red Square in Moscow, right by the Kremlin, on May 9th, the day they're celebrating, the big celebration day they have. Could this be someone trying to get the money? Could this be someone practicing for the big landing? I don't know. I mean, I will say this, the fact that the drone blew up makes me think maybe it wasn't that, because clearly the drone had some explosives on it, okay? That drone blew up. That second one blew up, and you don't see a streak in the sky, you don't see a projectile, so you don't see missiles, you don't see anything taking that drone down. And I refuse to believe somebody shot a bullet in the air, just happened to hit a drone, and when they just happened to hit the drone, it happened to explode into a fireball. That's only going to happen. First of all, you're not going to hit it with a bullet, but it's only going to explode like that if there's a weapon, if there's an explosive on board, which makes me think probably isn't an amateur who's testing this. Okay. Anyway, that's what I've got on the drone. I will tell you one more thing. Vlad, my friend in Ukraine, said that there are rumors in Ukraine that for this drone contest for people to land the drone in Red Square. These are just rumors, but the rumors are that there's 999 drones already ready to go, and they're coming from a number of countries, which is interesting. Now, I would imagine that would be a little scary too. I would imagine countries in the area might not want their citizens flying drones from their countries at Moscow, because the Russians could potentially take it as an attack. Nonetheless, sort of another final point to make here is, this was really embarrassing for the Russians. Who was that with the hearts there? Sorry, Ellie, thank you for that. This was really embarrassing for the Russians, which also makes you sort of wonder, excuse me, if it was the Russians, because admitting that the Ukrainians were able to not just get a drone into Moscow, but to get it into Red Square and then go over some really important Russian government buildings. Thank you, Kanowski, for that. Some really important Russian buildings, government buildings, is really embarrassing. They shouldn't be able to do that. They just should not be able to do that, but they did it. I mean, they did it if they did it, right? For the Russians to admit that is humiliating. But if I were advising Russia and somebody said that's humiliating, I would say that's exactly why we should do it. Because we would never do that. We would never do a false flag operation. We would never blow up our own drone over the Red Square and make it look like our security is so bad, because it would be humiliating. That's exactly why we should do it, because nobody would believe it was us. So, there's that too. So that's my point. I don't think we really know. I will say this final point, actually. A number of the experts are now kind of saying, a lot of people think it's a false flag. A lot of people do, meaning the Russians did it themselves. I'm not convinced yet, but I'm intrigued by how many people I see saying that. Thank you, Kanowski. You're just kind of going crazy tonight, aren't you? Thank you for that. All right, let's, sorry, I think there was I've got more stuff here, but Steven, was Vlad practicing for May 9th with the drone reward last night? Now, I didn't ask him that exactly, but I suspect it wasn't Vlad. I did ask him his opinion on this, but I don't want to say that publicly because, I didn't ask him that. But no, I doubt it was Vlad, and certainly Vlad wouldn't have explosives, so that's for sure. But in any case, and the drones also came from two different directions, which was interesting. I don't know what that means, but they came from like opposite directions at this dome, which was kind of interesting. Still makes me wonder if it wasn't, like I said, Russians doing this. Okay, Discord. God, it was 45 minutes. Jesus Christ. I mean, I knew this drone thing was a lot. I didn't know it was that much that I had. The rest of the news I'm going to go through very quickly so we can do more questions. I will do a quick pitch for my Discord. Discord is a way. We were using Patreon. I'm still using Patreon, but I think I'd like to sort of get ourselves off of using Patreon, because basically Patreon got weird with me last week. The Russians have been going after a lot of people. It's got to be the Russians have been going after a lot of people using Patreon who are doing things like I'm doing, trying to, help Ukraine. And I got a nasty little note from Patreon. We don't allow you to fund the war and this kind of stuff. And basically it wasn't worth fighting it. So I disconnected my Discord and even my TikTok. I don't link it from my Patreon anymore because it just wasn't worth it. Patreon's a really easy way to sign up and be able to give donations every month, which frankly is very important because it helps me a lot. Because as I said, I do this full time. This is my job doing this, and I need your gifts to keep. I don't want to say to keep doing it because I'll keep doing it, but I need income from somewhere, right? So you guys have helped and met that gap. So I appreciate that. I'm trying to do this now on Discord instead of Patreon. Patreon's still there. Anybody who's giving on Patreon, you're still there. And you can still go there. I'm not linking to it, but you can find it. It's Aravosis over at Patreon. But I'm now trying to do this on Discord. Discord has a pay option. You can subscribe. It is better to go there and subscribe. Actually, the link is in Callum. If you want to use it, the link is in my profile on TikTok. Go to my TikTok profile. Thank you, Brad. Click the link there, the Linktree link, and copy that Patreon link that's in there. That's the link that takes you and gives you the offerings for how you can subscribe and all of that. Basically give a monthly donation. What I always tell people, and this is actually an important point for you TikTokers, especially for the rest of you too, you will get a much better deal on TikTok if you go to my Discord, and a much better deal for TikTok itself for buying those coins you use for gifts if you buy them on your computer rather than your phone. At least using an iPhone, Apple, you may know, charges 30% to companies that use the Apple Store to charge things. This is why, and we finally figured it out, this is why on TikTok, you will see you get a much better deal for all those coins and stuff if you buy them on your computer and then go on your phone, then go on your iPad and give gifts to people. But keep that in mind. Same thing with my Discord. The basic price for my Discord is like this is a donation, obviously, $7.99 a month. It's $10.50 a month if you go via your phone. So keep that in mind, okay? In any case, thank you, Kanowski, for the guitar. I feel like I got to explain this because I don't want you guys to also sort of disadvantage yourselves, but it's really important. And if I'm trying to sort of see if I can get at least maybe 2 people a night to sign up for my Discord, I would really appreciate it for the donations, because as I said, I want to build up enough people that I no longer have to sort of worry about this. Now, the Discord, we've got cool auctions for Ukraine. So you can access to special categories like our special VIP auction. We sell a lot of cool stuff from Ukraine, auction it off there. Lots of cool stuff. Actually, the auctions just ended today. There's one left. And then I'm going to set up all new auction stuff tonight and tomorrow, going until next Wednesday. Thank you, Demon for the bear. Demon. Without my glasses, you were Demon. Denon. Sorry about that. Or Denon. I'm not sure, depending how you pronounce it. Demon. That's pretty funny. Sorry. In any case, I'll move on with the news, but do check out the Discord. Check it out. Daniel O'Neill, what is air defense doing? Thanks, John. Well, that's the question, Daniel, we don't know if Russian air defenses were really bad at stopping the drones or whether they were Russian drones. So there was no need to actually stop them because they were Russian, right? Also, it's apparently not the easiest thing to stop drones. Having said that, Ukraine has gotten very good at stopping the drones coming in. I think whether they've gotten to, is it almost 85, 90%, I think, to stopping the drones coming in. I don't know, the missiles, they've been doing that. So it's not true that you can't stop them. Also, let's put it this way too. 2 drones made it to that dome. Did 5 try to get there? Right? We don't know whether there weren't more drones that got shot down. Maybe this was a mass drone attack. I'm not convinced it was, because also the Russians would have said that, right? The Russians would have said it was 20 drones and we shot down 18, because then it makes them look good. But two of the terrorist drones almost assassinated dear leader, So, any case, yeah, we don't know, Daniel. Thank you for that. But anyway, all right. Let me see here. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to mention this again since Klobsos is bringing it up. So I mentioned at the beginning of the show, you may have missed this, but there are rumors going around about the Russians preparing their nuclear weapons and all of this. They're literally rumors. They're literally some people shared this stuff online and got everybody scared, so everybody's sharing it. There's no basis in fact to any of this. Does it mean eventually maybe it'll be true? Anything could be true. The sun could blow up in 7 minutes. Who knows, right? But there's zero backing up. Sorry, my allergies. I even took an allergy pill, but my allergies are going nuts. There's zero to back up this story that maybe the Russians are getting their nukes ready. Zero. It's just a rumor. So you should feel better because there's nothing to it. And as I've said before, the Russians, sorry about that. The Russians are, it's their job to scare you. They're not doing well. This is, what did I say, day 433 of a 10-day war. They're not doing well. Russia was supposedly the second greatest military on earth. Well, the second greatest military on earth isn't doing real well. It seems to be on its knees, in trouble. They need to fix this. And one of the ways they're going to fix it, and they already know this, and it's been working, is scaring leaders in the West into thinking, oh my God, we're close to nuclear war. Let's not give Ukraine tanks. Let's not give Ukraine long-range missiles. Let's not give Ukraine F-16s. Right? And let's make up lots of reasons for it too. Oh, the training takes a long time. This kind of crap. They don't really need it, as if the Ukrainians don't know what they need, right? So yeah, I don't, in any case, my point is, it is Russia's job to scare you into thinking that they're getting their nukes ready. And I think they never will get the nukes ready because there's no reason for them to do it. And they can't afford provoking NATO into joining the war, because if NATO joins the war, Russia loses. Russia just loses if we join the war. So yeah, I don't think, oh, hello. We've got the cool kitty. Ooh, who was that? Ellie, thank you for that. That Leon the kitten is a very generous gift and a very cool gift too. Thank you for that. That was super nice of you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. All right. Let me look here really quick. I'm not going to read the other stories because, like I said, we've been going on, although we've been doing questions, which is okay. Ukraine blew up fuel depots in Russia. Huge blaze at a fuel depot in the Russian town of Volna. The fire was close to the Kerch Bridge, which I was showing you is in southern Ukraine, right at the end of the peninsula there, close to the bridge that was blown up in October. The European Union ambassadors have finally agreed to the details of a 1 billion euro, 880 million pounds, or around the same in dollars, around $1 billion deal to bring much needed ammunition, artillery shells to Ukraine. May take over a year, but at least that's good. Berlin announced today that President Zelensky was visiting Germany later this month, and reportedly the Ukrainians freaked out because Zelensky has not been traveling much. Thank you, Kanausi, has not been traveling much, and therefore they don't announce it a month in advance, saying, "Oh, he's going to be here, he's going to be there." Right? Today in Finland, we found out today that he was in Finland. Washington, remember, we found out. Did we find out when he landed? I forget what, but it was literally just, right before. Finding out a month before is not good. So the Ukrainians are reportedly not happy about that. And finally, and this story kind of pissed me off, Semaphore reported, and Semaphore is a news service that's new here in Washington, or I'm in Chicago right now, but normally in Washington. But they're very good. They're really good established journalists. They report that President Biden offered to lessen some of the Ukraine sanctions against Russia in exchange for them releasing Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich. The Russia said no. Now that really pisses me off. I trust Semaphore. They typically would not get this story wrong. The idea that we are turning around and lessening the sanctions in exchange for American citizens that Putin kidnapped. First of all, what a great way to get more American citizens kidnapped, right? Because once again, we're telling Putin, hey, grab Americans. I know this pisses me off. I'm telling you, Dark Chef, Semaphore is very good. Semaphore is very good. I hope it didn't happen, but they're very good. All right, we'll stop with that. Other thing is we've got a store set up too, store.aravosis.com. A lot of cool Ukrainian stuff. Half the proceeds from our store, from the Ukrainian stuff, and half the proceeds from the auctions in the Discord, the Ukrainian stuff on our auctions, get channeled back to Ukraine, which is what Patreon didn't like. But nonetheless, what do you do? I mean, we've separated Patreon. So now Patreon is only to support my journalism. It's not connected to any of this. What do you do? In any case, all right, guys, let's do Exactly. Roshan, you've got it. All right, guys, let's pull up TikTok questions. Remember, TikTok, you can submit questions in the Q&A link in my profile. Put my glasses on. You guys can do the rest on the screen there. He's in the Netherlands now. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Well, that was my sense too, British, on TikTok. It sure seemed like it was a HD camera pointing at the Kremlin, getting this perfect video of the drone and everything else. It just seemed a little too prepared. I don't believe it. Have grain shipments resumed? No, and the deal is getting close to being killed. Thank you, Truthful, for the hearts there. The last thing was Zelensky saying today he doesn't think the deal is going to be renewed, and it doesn't look good. All right, Roshan. All right. People want the map. People are insane about the map. That's because people have like a fake drinking game. Well, I'm assuming it's fake. Who knows with the map that when I show the map, at least you'll see people put up the little emojis for all the drinks on the screen when I show the map. So they get very particular about their map. I'm getting hungry. I ate late today, but for some reason I'm getting hungry, which is not good. All right, more questions. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. Oh, thank you for the Paw Fest, Bonnie. Thank you. Timothy Leary, I'm laughing about your question. Didn't see, Nope Dark Chef did not see anything about Ukrainian uniforms being smuggled to Russian army uniforms to do a false flag. I wouldn't be surprised. We've heard about that before, potentially, but I wouldn't be surprised. That basically the idea that the Russians would try to impersonate Ukrainians to do some kind of a thing. Thank you, Crazy Carl. Who sent the hat there? Dora. Thank you, Dora, for the hat. Shooting in Serbia? Nope. Don't know what's up in Serbia. Was not following that today. I don't know. I mean, how, that was a long way too. Yeah. Johnny says, or JSM Johnny says, how did Ukraine get a drone past the Kerch Bridge to hit that oil depot or oil terminal? So I don't know where Volna is directly, but I know it's near Kerch, and Kerch is right here. The bridge is right here. Okay. So the Ukrainians hit somewhere around here. Hold on. I like to look this stuff up. I think it was Volna, right? Is that the town? Let me look it up on my map here, since I like to be educational with you guys. Volna. And if I've got it wrong, then we're not going to find it. Oh, there. No, that's in Zaporizhia. That's not the same Volna. That's in Zaporizhia. Nope. It's near the bridge. I'm not going to find it right now. It's near the bridge. Bridge is down here. Kind of interesting because Ukraine, this is all, thank you for the gift there, was it Kanausi? All of this is held by Russia. So in order to hit here, the closest part you're going to get is probably up here. Probably here to here. That's a good distance. Now, I'm trying to remember, that could be, actually, hold on. I was looking the other day. We were looking the other day at the map. What was I looking at to try to look for distances here? Shoot, I'm forgetting. Anyway, I'm forgetting what's the distance. Any Ukrainians out there? What would be the distance from here, from like, Nikopol-ish, or Zaporizhia, from like Zaporizhia to Kerch? What's the distance going to be on the map? Is that going to be like, could it be 200 miles? Could it be? I don't know. 400, well, Odessa, okay, 400 kilometers from Odessa, so that's going to be 275 miles maybe, right? So you could be 200 to 300 miles away. 174. That's a good distance though for the drones. Then again, they were able to. I see a B Smith. They were able to get the. Well, I shouldn't say that. We don't know if Ukraine got the drone to Moscow, right? It could have been the Russians. No, it's a good distance to get a drone and to control it. It can be done, but it takes some work. But then again, these are the Ukrainians. I mean, they're good. They clearly pulled it off. Actually, let me say one more thing. The drone doesn't have to come from Odessa. The drone can come from anywhere around. It can come from here. It can come from here. It can come from here. Anybody could be here that has a drone that decided to attack, right? The Ukrainian intelligence could have slipped a drone in here. They could have partisans helping them, right? So the drone doesn't have to be from Ukrainian-held territory. It could be from or from free Ukraine. It could be from Russian-held territory as well, right? Potentially. Just heard from Ukrainian intel that a massive attack coming tonight against Kyiv. We should expect that. Let me point something out, though. We thought there was going to be a massive attack the other night. Remember when Ukraine blew up the oil terminal? Thank you, Big Gator Girl. When Ukraine blew up the oil terminal down... where was it? I forget. Was it close to Sevastopol or Simferopol? I think maybe it was close to Simferopol, but in southern Ukraine, big oil terminal that they blew up. And remember, that night, oh my God. And everybody freaked out, and the Russians did one of their normal attacks. They didn't do like some horrific whatever attack. It was a normal attack. Now, I'm in Chicago. I'm going to guess Moscow's 9 hours ahead. What time is it in Moscow? Let me see here. 2 a.m. So they're 8 hours ahead. So if it's 2 a.m. in Moscow, actually, I don't even care what time it is in Moscow. I want to know what time it is in in Kyiv. What time is it in Kyiv, Ukraine? Oh, it is 2 a.m. Same thing. Okay. Thank you for the gifts there, Kanowski. So Kyiv is 2 a.m. Typically, the Russians attack around 4 a.m. Doesn't mean they're gonna, but they often attack around 4 or 5, maybe 4:30 a.m. because they really want to make sure people are in their bed so they can freak them out and ruin their sleep and kill them. So who knows? Who knows? I mean, again, right. They've been attacking, well, as Expanding Universe says, they've basically been attacking every night for weeks anyway. And that's true. I mean, this is why I also feel like using it as an excuse, right? Like Putin needs an excuse to fire more missiles. I think he might, but, let me put it this way. I don't think Russia has a choice now. They've talked themselves into, and mind you, they're such good whiners too. I mean, they're such good victims. It was 2 little drones that flew over Red Square. One of the drones crashed and did nothing, and the other drone blew up and hurt nothing. Oh, the drama, right? I mean, you'd have thought somebody dropped the nuke on Red Square with these guys. So they're almost going to have to fire more missiles tonight because they've walked themselves into a corner, right? They call this an assassination attempt. They're going to have to do. Now, one of the concerns I've got, although we don't quite know about this, one of the concerns is, would the Russians turn around and, try to blow up some of the administrative buildings in Kyiv, Ukraine, right? They haven't really blown up the parliament, the Defense Department, right? Ministry of Defense, all those kind of things. The question becomes whether Russia hasn't blown them up because they've chosen not to, or because Russia hasn't blown them up because they couldn't, right? Because they tried, and Ukrainian defenses were so good in Kyiv, the capital, that the Russian missiles couldn't get through. I mean, Russian missiles have gotten through, but they couldn't get through anything that was actually able to, pinpoint, be able to get the. Maybe they finally decide to do that. Having said that, Russia blowing up like a big attack on Kyiv, blowing up federal buildings in Kyiv, the parliament, things like that, would be a great way to guarantee that Ukraine gets like the long-range missiles it's looking for. So there is that. I mean, and I think also I will give Biden credit for this, maybe that holding back on what he's giving Ukraine, maybe it's getting Putin to hold back just a little, but I'm not really terribly convinced about that, to be honest. I think Putin would hit Ukraine with everything he can wisely. It wouldn't be wise for him to use nukes. Anyway. Oh yeah, no, they threatened to kill Zelensky. I mean, they're out of their minds. They killed Zelensky, and that's over too. They kill Zelensky, and there's going to be such a demand on our government. I mean, I'll go nuts on Biden, as will everybody else too, to give the Ukrainians everything they need and want if they kill Zelensky. I think they're in trouble. I think the Brit quit bashing Biden, please, Ronald. He's not your boyfriend. I always tell people that he's not your boyfriend. We are not the kind of people, hopefully, who look at political leaders and consider them our lovers. I'll even tell you, I voted for Biden, but he ain't my boyfriend. So when he screws up, I'm going to call him out. And he's been screwing up with Ukraine by not giving them the weapons they need because he's afraid of Putin. I've said it, and I will keep saying it because it's true, and it keeps being a problem. So yeah, but come on, guys. I do not like the knee-jerk defense of any political candidates. So I will bash Biden when Biden needs to be bashed, just like I will bash Trump and everybody else when they need to be bashed. And I have no problem doing that too, as you all well know. All right, what else we got, guys? We'll go a little bit longer. Ukraine needs planes. Of course they do. Of course they do. What else we got here? Hey, got more stuff here. I am hungry today. Like I said, thank you, Kay, for the gift there. Oops, hang on. There we go. Q&A. Do you think in Russia there's an underground cell that could at least have... Oh, thank you. Rob Barker. That's funny. You should be Bob Barker for my generation. The Price is Right. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate that. Do you think in Russia there's an underground cell that could have been Ukraine? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Paul. What do you mean? I mean, Ukraine could absolutely have underground cells in Russia. I suspect they do. Taman. Okay. Taman is the town. Thank you. I remember reading that name, Taman. Hold on. Taman, but not the one in Russia near Krasnodar, near Ukraine. Well, it should be in Ukraine. There it is. Oh, it's, wait a minute. It's actually not showing me exactly where, it's showing me where Chateau Taman is, but not Taman itself. All right, well, in any case, I don't know where it is. Okay, still not really showing us here. Wait, it's not. Oh, wait, Taman is on the, okay, now this I did not realize. Taman is on the Russian side. I guess I was thinking this was on the Crimean side. Okay, I did not realize that. So they attacked on the Russian side an oil terminal. Okay, that I forgot that. Okay, you're right. Totally forgot that was what was happening. Very interesting. Yeah, this was interesting too. Kelly Fonts mentions the curfew. They announced, oops, Kelly, there's Kelly. The Ukrainians announced a 58-hour curfew starting in Kherson on May 5th to 8th. Now, Kherson is a province here, but it's also the town of Kherson, the city which the Russians occupied early in the war. The Ukrainians got it back. The Ukrainians got back all the territory north of the river here that the Russians have. The Russians are now south of the river. I'm assuming they meant a curfew for the town, although they could have meant for the whole area. But it's interesting because that's a 2+ day curfew, and it certainly makes it sound like they're, preparing an attack or something. But as you said, it could also be a feint. It could be the Ukrainians playing games with the Russians because they like to do that, and they're very good at it, at basically tricking the Russians into thinking they're going to do something here when they're actually going to do something over there instead. So, who knows? Who knows? I saw that. Sorry, I'm going to yawn at you guys. I saw that, but I didn't mention it because I wasn't really sure what it means, So I sort of skipped it, but it made me suspicious. I will say that. Made me suspicious. What else we guys? Any more questions? I don't want to drag, again, I try not to drag this out, too long, but my Discord, okay, the easy address for Discord is discord.aravosis.com. And actually, you probably could use that address because once you get there and you sign up it's free, but you can become a paying member as well, but the paying is not required. You get extra access. I do sort of a weekend thing, which I mentioned to you guys Saturday morning. We're going to do a hangout for the paying members on TikTok and the paying members on Discord. That's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern time Saturday. There's also a special VIP auction area. So I put some of the auction items for the public at large. I put some of the auction items just for the VIPs as a thank you. So thank you, Kanalsi, for that. So there's and you get cute emojis. I mean, I'm actually getting cold here. You get cute emojis and stuff like that too. So if you like, that kind of thing, but it's discord.aravosis.com. Actually, I should have mentioned the easiest way to find my Discord is, for you guys on TikTok, etc., it's at the bottom of the screen, but you can also just go to aravosis.com. That's my link tree of links. On TikTok, you can go to my profile, click the link tree link on TikTok, and it'll bring up all my links, including the Discord. So that's probably the easy, and you can find my PayPal, all sorts of different ways of joining and helping out if you want. So thank you for that. Excuse me. Supper. I think I'm gonna. Well, depending if Mom's already making food, but we bought a number of good pizzas at the store. You guys, some of you guys, I think my mom mentioned Connie's. One of you guys did too. It's supposed to be a good frozen pizza. So, Chicago, land of pizza. Thank you, Denon, for the beaver there. I'm calling you Denon now instead of Demon. I don't think I'm going to Discord after, just because, guys, I'm famished. I'm absolutely. I don't know. I shouldn't be this. Well, you know what the problem is? When I come out here to you guys, I'm in Chicago, and it's my schedule gets screwed up here. Thank you, Shardy. Like when I'm back in DC, I've got you're showing me food. Thank you, Hedges, for the food. When I'm in DC, it's easy for me to eat like before the show. And when I'm at Mom's, I don't kind of have all my food because I don't, it's not like the grocery stores closer, but I could walk in DC. It's kind of difficult. So anyway, the point is, thank you, Ellie. I get hungry, or Eli. Yes, I do love my Chicago pizza. Your thoughts on this? I don't know what you mean. Aravosis Report Daily is my Aravosis. That's my daily Twitch that you're on. I hope. I hope. All right, guys. I think we are going to call it quits. Let me do my summary of the news. I always do this at the end of the show. I go through and review the stories that we talked about, in case you missed any. And other than that, hang on. Sorry, what am I missing here? Oh, Joanne had something. Sorry. Oh, and thank you. Who is that? Kay Kanowski. Thank you for that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure what I've got. Oh, right. Justin arrived in Netherlands. I see. Just arrived in Netherlands. Zelensky is in the Netherlands to talk about increase of Dutch support for the war and their support to join NATO and to get all the Russian war criminals convicted in The Hague. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes, the wood paneling. Of course, it's mom's place. Yes. The rest of the house is more modern, but we never it's comfortable. Like watching TV at night in this room is really nice because it's all wood paneling, so it's very like warm and cozy. Even though it's 1970s, it's comfortable. I like it. Anyway, I grew up with it, so like even though, like I said, my house in DC doesn't have this, but nonetheless. All right, guys, let me do the quick news review for you, and then I'm going to get going. Day 433 of Vladimir Putin's 10-day special military operation. I mentioned I am going to have a Twitch weekend review that we're doing just on Twitch on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time US. That'll be on my Aravosis account. The Aravosis Report Daily is the Twitch account I do here every day. My affiliate account is Aravosis, just my last name. That's the account that you guys were more familiar with, that I've got more followers on. So check that one out on Saturday. We will do our coffee talk, as I said, 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday for paid subscribers on TikTok, paid subscribers on Discord. The drone, I'm trying to sort of summarize the drone info. So there were 2 drones. Basically, I went through an analysis on it could be real. It could be the Ukrainian government that attacked. It could be Russian government doing a false flag, basically trying to blame Ukraine for something Russia did to try to drum up support among the Russian population, but also to try to freak out Biden and the other leaders. It could be Ukrainian partisans who did it. It could be Russian partisans who are helping the Ukrainians who did it. There you go. So, Jamie. All right, I will stop because Jamie had either a question or a comment at Super Chat. I always promise to do the Super Chat. War crimes. Is it each soldier responsible, Putin or the country? It's not going to be the country, but it could be. It is not could be. I'll read the rest of your question. Why stop committing war crimes when life in prison is the maximum? Would sanctions carry on if Putin was to die? The way the war crimes works are there people. So from what I know of war crimes, it's all the people involved. That can be a bunch of troops committing a war crime, A. Then B, who in the next level was also responsible. Were they ordered to do it? Were they told, hey, go out there and definitely kill Ukrainian civilians, right? So how high up can you prove the orders came down? For example, the International Criminal Court believes that it can prove that Putin himself was involved, and we know this anyway from TV broadcasts of Putin with the children, that Putin himself was involved with the decision to kidnap the Ukrainian children. They kidnapped 6,000 to 15,000 Ukrainian kids, and they're trying to use them as trying to turn them into Russians, basically. Really sick. Well, Putin himself took credit for it, so the International Criminal Court could blame Putin. So you go after everyone you can prove was involved at all levels. But it wouldn't be a country as a whole necessarily. It would be everyone you can prove in the country, the generals involved, the leader, etc. So Putin dies, and you no longer can punish Putin, but you can still punish all the generals that were involved, the troops that executed the orders, any of them. Okay, so that's how it would work. Yep. Zero, my thoughts on the debt ceiling situation. So debts, all right, since it's a super chat question, I'll talk about it. The debt ceiling is very confusing. That's the whole issue with the debt and the budget and everything here in the States. We were talking about it on the Discord. Actually, our Discord, we had a good talk about it today. I even set up a special section on the Discord, whatever you call the sections, about the debt ceiling because people were talking about it and had questions, and I thought it might make it a little easier for us to have an area to talk about it. But basically, I compared it to this. You are in debt. You've got $10,000 on your credit card. You work, your spouse works, but you don't bring in enough money to pay the bills. So you bring in money, you pay your bills. Some of that money goes, actually, it is like a person. Some of that money goes to pay your credit cards. Some of that money goes to literally pay your bills. So you'd be paying for your kid's doctor visit. You're paying every week for groceries. You're paying for your telephone. You're paying for your internet, whatever it is, your car payments, right? Well, the debt limit says again, if this were a private home, the debt limit says you are only allowed to accumulate $10,000 in debt. Anything more than $10,000, and we're cutting you off. So what happens is, because this family, its expenses are more than it makes it its work, every time it pays a bill, it's going a little bit more into debt. Well, if the debt ceiling says this family, once you're at $10,000 debt, you can't pay any more bills. That's what it says. Because if you pay those bills, you're going to be accumulating a little more debt. And I didn't give you permission to accumulate debt beyond 10,000. That's what the debt ceiling is. The debt ceiling does not govern how much money we spend, really. That's the budget. So the budget, this debt ceiling is for the budget. Thank you, Kanausi, is for the budget that was already passed, right? So what happens is, go back to the family. The family would need you to increase their debt ceiling to 20,000 instead of 10,000 for them to continue paying their bills, because they're still not making enough money to pay all their bills. So every month, maybe they pay the electricity and they've got enough money for 80%, but not enough for the 20% of the electricity bill. That 20% goes to debt again. That's the idea. Now, you can argue that the government should get its finances in order. Easier said than done. The last time we had a surplus was under Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton left office with like a $400 billion surplus. Since then, we haven't had a surplus. It's gotten better and worse over the years. It got particularly bad, well, under Bush Obama. It got bad. Oh, hello. What's the matter with you? Relax. Under my dog making noises. Under Bush going to Obama, it got bad because we had the economic crisis, remember, when the whole world almost collapsed. So lots of spending there. We had a lot of spending in Trump's first year, actually Trump overall, but Trump's first year with COVID, like $1 trillion deficit or something crazy. We also had a lot of spending under Trump because they had a big, massive tax cuts as well. But it's not easy to cut the deficit. That's the other problem. It's not easy to cut because nobody wants to cut defense. Not nobody, but you know, a lot of politicians don't want to cut defense. We don't want to cut Social Security, which is basically retirement benefits, which I don't want. We've all been paying into them for years. I don't want those cut. Medicare is health care for seniors, retired people. I don't want that cut either. But those combined take up like the majority of the budget. Health, defense spending, healthcare for seniors, and retirement for seniors. So it gets very difficult to cut it. Any case, so what's final point here? What the Republicans are doing is they are trying to say, and they did this before under Obama. They didn't do it under Donald Trump, I will say, but they did it under Obama. They do it when they were Democratic presidents. They say, we're not going to increase that ceiling. We're going to make the government shut down unless you cut lots of money from domestic programs, but it won't be from defense, and it won't be from, well, it just won't be from defense. So it'll all have to be domestic programs that Democrats like. Thank you, Denon. So that's the debt ceiling thing in general. And what the Republicans did in the House, they passed a bill that cuts lots of things Democrats like. Thank you, Kelly. So they passed like a debt ceiling increase as long as Democrats cut a bunch of programs they like. The other thing they did, which isn't so good, is it looks like they also cut $2 billion for veterans benefits as well, which Republicans do like, but I think they couldn't get around it without cutting it. So that's going to be a problem that, you know, people are not going to like. But it's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess. But bottom line is, personally, the thing I didn't mention is catastrophic economic consequences in not get out of here. What do you want from me? That was my dog now. Out of the blue, my dog suddenly wanted to play. I'm not playing with you right now. She literally jumped in the room and on all fours just looked at me like, wow. No, stop. No. We're not playing ball right now. No, stop. She's trying to get me to, I speak dog. My dog is trying to get me to play ball with her. In any case, so the final point, you can Google and research this. Incredibly dangerous. What they're playing with here. If we default on our debt, the U.S. credit rating plummets. Our credit rating went down the first time the Republicans tried this 10 years ago, even though we didn't default, but we got so close to default. Our credit rating went down. U.S. economy will go in the tubes. World economy will probably go with us in the tubes. Google it. Every economic expert says disaster. I'm talking disaster if this happens. That's another reason Democrats are not really thrilled about it, because they feel like basically Republicans are holding the country hostage in order to get their cuts, right? It's not like Democrats are saying, we'll hold the country hostage unless you repeal the Bush and the Trump tax cuts, right? Democrats aren't saying that. They could, but they're not. So I think if you want to have the budget discussion, have it separate, but you don't literally hold the economy hostage, and that's what they're doing. So, all right, enough of that. Thank you for the flowers there, Kanowski. All right, real quick, Daniel. Hang on. Daniel's got a two-parter. Hang on. Part one. Post-World War II, through the Marshall Plan, it was agreed that the U.S. dollar would become the global reserve. Oh, God, don't ask me a hard economic question. Would become the global reserve currency. The architecture assumes the U.S. will always be in debt. This made the Allies dependent. Two, this formed the basis of how both the security apparatus formed post-World War II, but also how we entered into globalization in the 80s. Okay, Daniel, that was way over my head. Very interesting, but you kind of went over, maybe because I'm hungry, but that sounds like economics that's beyond what I know in economics. Okay. I don't know how to comment on it because I don't know enough I try to be honest with you guys. I don't know enough about that. I don't know enough about it. Oh, there's a part 3. Of course, the Bretton Woods system, Breton, I do know it's Breton, I will say that, was challenged by the French, and the gold standard turned into fiat. Daniel is just like, well, first of all, thank you for the donations, of course, but Daniel is like is there a fourth part? I'm waiting to see. Oh, there's a fourth part. But the idea was that the US dollar as the reserve currency would be in debt. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That I did not know. So basically the underlying idea is the US would be in debt. That's part of the idea of having the reserve currency. Huh. Okay. Did not know that. Actually. It is complicated. Depends who you talk to. But as I said, I look at it as you're holding the economy hostage, and I don't like that. Thank you, Jill, for the sail away stuff there. Oh, no. Oh, sorry. Kukla just got up and walked by. All right, Sasha, you want to come say hi? What do you think? I'm reading the news. Come here. Come up. Oh, no. She's like, she knows that trick. She's like, I'm not coming up. She jumped. She wanted to look for her ball. All right, let me keep going with the news here. Thank you guys for all of that, by the way. So I was saying, I mentioned sort of the 4 people it could be. It could be the Ukrainians, could be the Russians, could be partisans, could be a Russian false flag. There's also the issue of on May 9th, maybe there's going to be a massive drone swarm heading to Moscow as kind of a joke. We'll see about that. Ukrainians blew up a fuel depot near Russia. Actually, it's actually in Russia, I think. Yeah, that it's close to the Kerch Bridge. Oh, it's the Russian. Correct. It is the Russian town. Actually, they said the Russian town of Volna. That's the thing. I know you said Taman. Maybe they're both really close, but my note said the Russian town of Volna. Bottom line is Russian town right across the Kerch Bridge. The Ukrainians attacked today to blow up Russian oil refinery or oil storage for the war, which is great. European Union ambassadors have finally agreed to the details of a €1 billion, same as the dollar more or less, deal to buy much needed shells for Ukrainian artillery. Thank you, Kanowski. Did you get an inheritance today? I mean, thank you for that though, but you've been crazy generous. Thank you for that. Oh, yeah. Zelensky's supposedly a little bit upset because the Germans went public on him visiting Germany in a month, and not a good idea because basically Zelensky doesn't want his travel plans to be known in advance, which is why we just found out today that he was in Finland. Somebody else said he then landed in Netherlands. Didn't know that until he was there either. So saying it in advance is not a good thing. Any case. All right. And then finally, there is a report from Semaphore, which is a credible news service, that President Biden offered to lessen some of the sanctions on Russia if they released Evan Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter. The Russians said no. And I said, I think that's really stupid if he did that. So who knows? All right, guys, let's go. I got to get food. My blood sugar's plummeting. Good to see you guys. Thank you for all the gifts. That was I know I always say that, but it really was very generous tonight. So thank you for that. And we'll skip Discord because I'm really hungry. Thank you, Kanowski, final gift. And please do check out the Discord, like I told you. It's free, but if you want to help, and I do appreciate, I like to see if I can get 2 signups a night. We've got a monthly sign up now for monthly donations on the Discord as well. But if you're going to do it, check it out on your computer because it could be cheaper. It could be significantly cheaper to sign up on your computer, and then you can use it on your phone. Okay. So thank you guys. Go check it out. Oh, the final thing. Well, just for the Twitchers, I did hook up Twitch as well. So if you become a subscriber on my affiliate page, which is Aravosis, it will make you a VIP member of the Discord, and you can come to the Saturday morning stuff, and you can bid in the VIP auctions. So I did set that up actually. I forgot to mention that for the mighty Twitchers. So just set it up a couple days ago. So if you want to do that, please do. But thank you guys overall. All the links, like I said, that I've talked about during the show are at aravosis.com. You can find it. You guys can find it at the bottom of the screen. You guys can find all the links in my TikTok profile. Just click the Linktree link. They all come up. All right, guys, I'm going to go see what mom's cooking in the kitchen, and I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Wednesday already. Woo-woo. I've got lots of gifts to mail off. Not lots of gifts, lots of auction items to mail off tomorrow. All right. See you guys. Thank you. Yeah, I'll say hi to mom. Actually, mom's usually watching on TikTok or on YouTube. So mom probably already sees this. All right. Thanks, guys.